Welcome everyone to another episode of Facility Management Marketing Podcast. I'm your host Javier, and today's topic, what we'll be diving into, is hiring whether you should go with an agency, like a marketing agency, or keeping marketing in-house. This is something that comes up quite a bit in different businesses that are small, that are 5 million, 10 million, maybe 15 or 20 million, where what they do is that they are debating if they have the budget to hire someone in-house and to bring in marketing in, or to hire agency and do something which is going to be outsourced. And so this is a very big debate to look at. But here's the thing. I don't see a lot of agencies serving the facilities management industry. And I think it's because it's not widely recognized. Not recognized. It's not widely known by a lot of companies. And so agency work is a common thing that I see in different spaces. I see it for people that run a chiropractor or a dentist or a SaaS company. But I don't see, or even technology companies, but I don't see a lot of, some of these companies have these sort of pieces in-house because they may not have the budget, they may not have the infrastructure, they may not have the know-how on how to manage marketing correctly. And so they just kind of outsource it all. And so what I'm going to be doing in this episode is really discussing about the two pieces, about agencies and, whether your facility service, if your facility service provider should hire an agency, or if you should just keep this in-house and you just keep marketing in your company and you manage it that way. And so, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a matter of what works best for you. And so I'm just going to be covering both of them. So I'll be pretty frank with you on some of this stuff as well too. But, for us, for instance, at Ratmates, we basically have two marketing people within the company. So it's myself, as well as our director of marketing. His name is Jeff. And we also have an agency that helps us with other elements of our marketing. Okay, we have a product manager as well too, our head of product. Her name is Jen, and so she basically works with managing our products that we have that are all technology based. Okay, so she kind of has a role in marketing as well too, and we do have a designer that does a lot of the design and of our website, design of our products that we have. So she kind of has a little dabble in marketing as well too. And so we have a little bit of everything. And then, like I said, we also outsource. But what does this mean for a facility service provider? Should you guys outsource? Should you guys keep something in-house? Well, let me just kind of tell you this first, is if you don't currently have a marketing, not like a marketing coordinator, and if you're a marketing coordinator, I'm not knocking you, okay? I'm just simply saying that it's that if you as a coordinator don't have the experience of managing larger projects and creating strategy and executing upon those strategies, then sometimes when these things are kind of put on you, it's a lot of stuff to kind of carry. So you as a facility management leader or executive, you might want to consider having an agency to manage big pieces of your marketing strategy, okay? Now, does this mean that you shouldn't have a marketing coordinator? It doesn't mean that. It just means that they probably focus on other elements, okay? They focus on what probably is best for them, or more of like a jack of all trades. Now, the flip side of this is that maybe you do want to hire a CMO or VP of marketing or director of marketing for your facility service company. And so, if you're going to go that route, do you need to hire an agency? It depends on who you're hiring as far as the person filling that role for the VP of marketing or the director of marketing. It's all a matter of what your goals are. And so again, as I mentioned, I'm going to be covering the two aspects of this. Okay, so using a marketing agency means that you hire companies to do certain elements of your marketing strategy. So keep this in mind, that if you're going to be hiring an agency, you already have a marketing strategy laid out. Do you understand that so far? So you can't just hire an agency and expect them to design the actual strategy unless that's what you hire them to do. Does that make sense? Because a lot of agencies, they specialize or focus on specific things. So for instance, we use an agency that really their thing is lead generation. That is their kind of like their bread and butter, if you will. And so we hire them to do lead gen for us, where they're helping us with Google ads and Facebook ads and Instagram ads. Those are the 3 channels or platforms that we're running ads on. And I would say probably about 80% almost come from Google ads. That's where most of our leads come from, is there. And then the rest is going to be coming from, paid social. And so, this whole approach that you hire an agency to do everything is not a bad idea, but I would recommend maybe looking at what other agencies are good at doing. But before you hire an agency, though, you need to have a marketing strategy. And so if you don't have a marketing strategy, sometimes what would probably make the best sense is hiring maybe a fractional CMO. So a fractional CMO is going to come in as like your CMO, all right? But they're working part-time at a fraction of the cost, and they're creating a strategy, and they're creating the strategy and how to execute, or they're creating the execution plan on how to execute that strategy, and they're getting this stuff kind of deployed out to the agency. And then I'm not going to say that they're going to manage the agency, but they're going to kind of like, communicate with the agency, make sure they're doing certain pieces, and that's going to help with that element. Now, if you have someone in-house that knows how to create marketing strategy, I'm not just saying like, yeah, I listened to a couple of podcasts and I figured it out, or I've been doing marketing as a sales VP, so it's no different. It's not the same. It's like me going into your facility service company and saying, yeah, I can teach your sales team on how to sell correctly and sell more, just because I was able to do it back then, like 15 years ago, working for a SaaS company. And just because I was able to do it, at CMI Mechanical, doesn't necessarily mean I can actually do it right now, because my primary focus for several years has been just marketing. And so I haven't really been diving into the whole sales piece. So where I'm getting to is that don't come in here thinking that, oh, it's easy to create a marketing strategy. We just want to be first on this page. We just want to, get more leads. Like, that's not a strategy. That's a goal. Like, getting more leads, great. How are you going to do that? We're going to run ads. Okay, what kind of ads are you going to run? Who are you targeting? What's the budget? How many leads do you want to generate per month? What are you looking to get out of these leads? Do you have some sort of funnel after the leads come in? Do they get through a bunch of a series of emails? Does the sales team know what to do, how to handle these leads? Like, do you see what's going on? So you can't just come out here and say, I just want more leads, and expect that to be a marketing strategy. And so before you hire an agency, sit down and create a marketing strategy. And if you don't know how to do that, then hire a fractional CMO to help you create a marketing strategy. Pay them to actually do the thinking, okay? I mean, someone said this, I saw this on a post the other day, where some of the wealthiest people get paid for their thinking. And so if you're like, that's ridiculous. No, not really. It isn't ridiculous, because you are not, when you hire a fractional CMO, you're not paying them to do something. You're paying them to create a strategy that is going to make your business more money, or more relevant, or more aware. Okay? So before you hire an agency, have a strategy. And so a marketing agency means that they're going to be working for you part-time. Okay? They're not your employee. So when you go in there and you're like, I need this done by tomorrow, it's not going to quite work, because they have other clients as well too. Now, I understand that you have deadlines and you expect certain things and all that other stuff, and I get that. But something to kind of keep in mind is that these agencies also have other clients, and they have other deadlines and other parameters that they have to do, that you kind of have to work around their schedule at times. And so that I can tell you right now, from personal experience for myself, where people have hired me as an agency to do SEO, to do consultations and whatnot. I basically, don't give them guidelines or say, I'm going to have this out by tomorrow. And I know some people like, well, we need that. That's not kind of how agencies work, because essentially you're a subcontractor. You can't really tell them when something's supposed to be done. Unless they're an employee, it's different. Okay? So keep that piece in mind when hiring an agency, right? And the next thing is hiring in-house for marketing means that they are on your payroll. They're not a contractor, okay? And so when you hire someone in-house, okay, to do marketing, you're putting them on payroll. That means that you're paying them a salary. You're paying them, weekly or monthly or bi-monthly wages. You're giving them benefits. You're giving them a computer. You're giving them access to a whole bunch of other stuff. You're paying for, whatever the cost is for having this person. But when you hire a marketing person in-house, especially if you don't have someone already in your business, you're going to want to hire someone that's kind of like one of three things, okay? They're either a promoter, they're going to be a designer, or they're going to be a really good like funnel builder, okay? Those are the three things. So a promoter is going to be the person who knows how to get the word out about the business, okay? A designer is going to have a design eye that knows how to create and make things pretty, like whether it's websites or whether it's like images and like graphics and stuff like that. And then the funnel person is going to be like person knows how to build like sales funnels, understand the mathematics of conversions, understand like the whole statistical stuff. Like they're more of like the operations of marketing, if you will. And if you're like, well, I want someone that does all three of those, you can find them, but let me just kind of make this very, very clear. Finding a unicorn is almost fucking impossible, okay? I can't tell you how many times I see these job posts where like a company is like, we want someone that knows how to code in HTML, writes content, email marketing, does paid social and paid search, and then also knows how to do, how to create funnels and analyze the data, and then also knows how to use, Adobe and all this other stuff. I'm like, what in the hell are you hiring for? Are you hiring a unicorn? Like, that doesn't exist. But when you categorize marketing into three buckets, and then that person can probably like delve into each of the others, then you've got yourself a good one. Like, so for myself, I'm the promoter. I know how to get the word out. I know how to get traffic. I know how to get things out there, okay? I'm the brains behind of like the strategy, the execution part. Now, as far as design, I know how things should look. I know how to be efficient by using products like Canva, but I'm not a designer. I'm not a web designer, all right? So what do? I give that out to our graphics person, all right? And then the funnel part, like that's the other part that I'm okay with. I'm good at creating funnels, but there's other people that are better at doing the funnels and statistics and the tracking and those sort of things. And so I'm more of like that copy person. And so where I'm getting to is that when you hire someone in-house, you're going to want to find someone that hits one of those three, and they can do a little bit of the other two. And they may not be perfect at it, but they understand it just enough to be like somewhat dangerous. And if they don't know how to do it, they know how to find the answer or to find the right person or the right resources to get the answer or solve that problem. Does that make sense? So now let me kind of dive into the benefits of hiring an agency, okay? So number one, the benefits of hiring a marketing agency is they are faster and they're more nimble, okay? Because they have more resources. They can tend to like just move quickly on certain things, all right? So they're gonna be fast on what needs to be delivered. They're gonna be more nimble. They're gonna be able to adjust really quickly. Like our agency, when it comes to like ads that we're creating, I can go tell them, hey, I want these things to be adjusted. I don't want this to be here. I want us to make sure we focus on this targeting. And by our next meeting, a lot of those things are already kind of in play, okay? They can bring up ideas you may not be thinking about. And this is a huge, huge thing because a lot of the times you're so centered on your facilities company that you don't think about anything else other than like how your business just runs. And you have this whole like tunnel vision kind of approach. And quite frankly, that's not actually a benefit to your business. It's a detriment, which is why sometimes hiring agencies that are outside of your industry is a better fit. Okay, so some agencies are really good at thinking outside the box and doing really well. So what I would recommend if you're going to hire an agency, see where they've been successful in other spaces and see if that space can possibly model your current space as a facility service provider. And if it can, then maybe they can actually help your business as well too. All right, number three on why you should hire an agency is they can support your business strategy. Okay, so keep this in mind. You need to create your own business strategy before you hire them. You can't be expecting them to do that. Okay, so once you create your strategy and once you create your marketing strategy, they will be able to support it. You can simply say, hey, marketing agency 101, these are the goals that we have for the company. This is the goal. We want to hit this revenue, hit this revenue, etc. And then this is what we've mapped out for us to achieve in marketing to help us achieve that. This is how marketing is going to help support that. They need to bring in X amount of leads and they need to be doing this. And so then from there, they can create a strategy to help support what your overall, marketing strategy and business approach is, okay? Number 4, the reason you should hire an agency is that they can be a sounding board. So I go to our agency all the time and say, hey, I've got these ideas. And when I say ideas, they're not just like, I was just taking a shower and it just came up to me like this. It's like these things that we thought, we think that we have meetings about them and then we bring them up. And then so you can use them as a sounding board. Like, hey, have you have experience doing this? And what were the results? And sometimes they can actually come to the table and be like, yes, we've done this before. And these are the results. And we recommend that you should or should not do that. Make sense so far? And then number 5 is that they can get you faster results if they're good. Okay. So, at one point, Ratmate was paying close to $20 or $25 a lead. Actually, no, I take that back. It was like $48 a lead. It was expensive. And this was a different agency that we were using at the time. And then they switched. This is prior to me and everything. So they switched to another company. And then this company slowly got it down to where we're now paying roughly $2 per lead. Now, mind you, like every industry is always going to be different. Okay. So our industry is a little different from, say, facilities management. But where I'm getting to is that they were able to get us results pretty quickly, I think within 2 or 3 months. And a lot of the times, good agencies that are really designed to do lead gen, they can get you results pretty quickly. And they can say, okay, yeah, we can definitely do this. We can definitely do that. Now, there's other things where it can't be done because it is time consuming. Like, for instance, like SEO. You're not going to get results next week. You're not going to get results in 3 months. You might see progress. You'll start seeing the foundational growth. But, the SEO strategy is a little different. And so you can't just expect results on everything. Some things is long play. So it's a long-term play. So you're basically playing for the future. Other things is a short-term play. So like anything that has to do with SEO and organic search and just kind of getting more brand, that's a long-term play. Short-term plays are going to be things that you pay money for. So like, PPC or that stands for pay-per-click. So that's like ads on Google or ads on social media. Those things you can get quick results because you can just really just like change things immediately, test things out really fast until you find the right formula. All right. So now let's flip to the benefits of having marketing in-house. So number 1 is you're in control of the narrative. Okay, so having marketing in-house, you can control the story that is being told about your company, which is really important because most agencies don't know how to tell that story because they're not talking to the customer. Most agencies don't know how to tell that story because they're not talking to the sales team and having those daily interactions with a team and weekly meetings and stuff like that. By having someone in-house, they can tell the story correctly. And if you're like, well, how do you write a story? How do you write like your company story? I think in episode 2, which you should go listen to, is the one that talks about creating a brand script, okay? Or your brand story. And this is, maybe it's 3, one of the 2, episode 2 or 3. And so that's where you can, have your marketing team control the narrative, the story, because the story is critical and that's what sets you apart from everybody else, okay? You can save money. And you might be wondering, well, how the hell do you save money? Like agencies aren't cheap because you got to pay them, for whatever strategy that they're going to execute upon. So like, for instance, if you're going to be paying them to do lead gen, all right, just an example, great. You're paying them to do lead gen. Then the flip side of that is that you're going to have to pay someone else to do that in-house. And sometimes you might have to pay them a little bit more. Okay. So, and not just that, if you're making like 1 or 2 hires and you hire someone just to do lead gen, you're going to be expecting them to be able to do a little bit more than just lead gen. You're going to want them to be able to do like content creation and a little bit of SEO and a little bit of demand gen, like not just lead gen. Do you see what I'm saying? So most companies don't have the resources, the money to hire someone just for one thing and one thing only. And so sometimes, like you're going to save a ton of money by just going with an agency. So and other times you'll save more money actually by keeping it in-house, but you're going to want them to be able to do a little bit of everything. So the second reason why you want to keep it in-house is you can save some money because that person can do a little bit of everything, and they may not be able to get the full results as an agency, but they can get enough to where it's still like, it's not bad. All right. Number 3 on why you should keep marketing in-house is that you have your employees do more than just one thing. So I've already kind of mentioned this, I've been talking about this. So our director of marketing, his name is Jeff. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He's amazing at everything he does. He does a really, really good job on just different aspects. He comes in with some great ideas, and then we help execute some of those things as well too. But where I'm coming from is that, whenever you have someone in-house, if you take those 3 things that I told you that you should hire them for, so they either need to be the promoter, the funnel person, or the design person, then what you need to understand is that person, whatever those 3 things are, they need to be able to overlap on the other 2 categories. Okay, so keep that peace of mind. You can't expect them to be like amazing at all 3 things. All right, just kind of keep that in mind. Like there's like outbound salespeople, and then there's like inbound salespeople, and they're 2 different things. Right. The next reason you want to keep marketing in-house is you can get more out of them at times since it's not a contract. So what I mean by this is that I know we're all supposed to be working 40 hours a week, but sometimes like a project needs to get pushed, and it needs to get pushed, past the finish line. And that might mean that they have to work more. While an agency is already allocated a certain amount of time for your company, and anything over that, you are probably going to be paying more for it, or you're going to be losing out in the following month. Okay. And then the last one is that you can be closer to the strategy you can be closer to the strategy creation and KPIs. So when you keep marketing in-house, you are going to be able to be closer with that marketing person to where you're tracking KPIs more regularly. Okay. And essentially you can see how the strategy is going upon its execution, and what it's in and how it's doing just, down the road and that sort of stuff. All right. So now we're going to go and switch to the cons of hiring an agency. It can actually be very costly, almost too expensive for some services, while other services is probably really economical, but it can be too much, too expensive for you to hire an agency. Some agencies, for instance, for like SEO, can charge you anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 per month and require a 6 to 12 month minimum. Okay, so you're looking at anywhere from $36,000 to $120,000 in a year. Do you have that budget? Okay, so, and you're like, well, what about demand gen? What about lead gen? That's different. Can you pay them? It's probably going to be $2,000 to $4,000 per month. All right, because you get them you have to create the actual ads. They have to create the landing page. That's expensive. And then from there, you have to have ad spend behind it. You can't just put, $500 after you're paying them $4,000 a month to run ads. You have to put some, good chunk of change behind that. So $3,000 to $5,000, maybe even $10,000 a month. Do you see what I'm trying to get to? So it can be costly. Sometimes agencies can be hit and miss because they might focus and do so well in a certain industry that whenever they tap into a new industry, they may not get the results that they're accustomed to seeing in other industries, which is why I see a lot of agencies that only focus on, say, like dentists or plumbers or, chiropractors and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's bad, but they can create a repeatable system. And so sometimes some agencies can be hit and miss, and that's just kind of what it is. Okay, so it's unfortunate, but there's nothing you can do about that unless you just are willing to invest the money into finding the right agency. And it might take you 2 or 3 or 4 agencies to find the right mix. And you're like, well, that's just such a waste of money. Is it? Because if you hire an employee and then they don't pan out after 3 months, all the time that you spent training them, all the money that you paid them, all the other time that the other people spent training them and getting them up to speed, and then all of a sudden you had to fire them, What's more valuable? Sometimes having an agency that you just hire for 6 months or for 2 months or for 1 month just to try them out versus being stuck with an employee that's basically an anchor. Okay. And so it's going to take time to find the right agency. It took Ratmate a while. And so the next one on why you don't want to hire an agency is that they can make recommendations against your brand script. So this is kind of what I mean is that since they're not ingrained into your company, they may not know what kind of messaging you're trying to put out there. And so this is why it's important that you create a brand script so that the entire company messaging is coherent. All right, it's cohesive. All right, and so what I mean by this is that brand script is being shared with the sales team, with the operations team, with the finance team, with the marketing team, and everyone knows it. And so when you hire an agency, they may not really know that much about your brand script. So A, create a brand script. B, train them on the brand script. C, make sure they execute upon the brand script. So for instance, if there's certain verbiage that your company does not use, then what you need to understand is that you get to tell that agency, hey, you cannot use these kinds of words. You can't say these kind of things, okay? And they may not know, and it might take time for them to figure that part out. And then the last piece is they can make mistakes about strategy and not change and not make changes soon enough. And so, I know I mentioned that they're nimble and they're fast, but at the same time, they could also be slow depending on the agency that you've hired. Okay, so you might be not seeing any results on a certain execution, and you might be like, you know what, this is not working. We need to just can this and move on. And they may not make the changes quickly, as fast as you would expect. And so that's not a benefit. That's something that you might want to be considering and thinking, you know what, maybe we should be looking in a different direction. All right, now cons about hiring in-house. So it's tough to find specialists that can do basically everything. Let me read this one more time. It's tough to find specialists that can also do other tasks. That's what I was trying to say. All right, it's tough to find specialists that can do other tasks. So you remember those 3 categories that I gave you where it's either the promoter, the designer, or the math person, like the funnel person. It's really hard to find a unicorn that can cover all 3 of those very, very well, okay? And so if you are okay with having someone that is really strong in one area and then they know a little bit of the other 2, that's what I would recommend, and you have to keep that in mind. And then the other option is that you hire a director of marketing, someone that has done a lot of these things, understands it, they're one of those 3, and then they know how to fill the role to fill one of the gaps. And then they train that other person to be able to dabble in the other 2 areas as well too. So maybe like you have someone that's in-house, that's a director of marketing, that is probably the promoter. Maybe that director of marketing would hire a designer, okay? And that designer is going to be fluid in like promotional stuff as well as like funnel stuff and mathematical stuff. And you as the director of marketing are probably pretty fluid in like maybe the other 2 or something like that. Where I'm getting to is that would be the best case scenario, but it's hard to find a specialist where they can do everything. So lower your expectations. Don't expect to be like, well, I need a VP of marketing that does everything, that knows how to code and write emails. Like that does not exist, okay? Like those things, don't ask for those sort of things. Hire someone that is going to be one of those 3 areas: a promoter, okay, a designer, or a funnel or mathematic person, statistics person, all right? So when you do that, you're putting yourself in a better position, and then the person that's going to be applying for that job is going to know exactly what to expect. Another reason why you don't want to hire in-house for marketing is that it can get expensive if you want to get a director of marketing or a VP of marketing or a CMO of marketing, okay? So it can be expensive. And so what I mean by this is that what I see is a lot of facility management companies, they kind of then say, well, since we can't hire a VP of marketing, let's just hire a marketing coordinator, pay them $40,000 and expect them to be doing what VP of marketing can do. That doesn't exist, okay? And so they want like this amazing marketer, but they don't want to pay them. And quite frankly, like paying a good marketing leader is going to cost you some money. You're going to be like, if you're going to be paying someone from a director up to a CMO position, you're going to be paying around 6 figures, give or take. Okay. And if you're thinking that's just too much, Javier, do you want someone that's good, or do you just want to fill the role just because like you want to pretend that you're marketing? No, you should be hiring someone that's good. You want to build a foundation. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. And then the next piece is why you don't want to bring marketing in-house is that you need to have frameworks that can be executed easily and quickly. So if you don't have a marketing leader, then they probably can't create the frameworks. And then if they can't create the frameworks, they can't see if those things are going to be executed quickly, all right, and easily. And so that's something that that I do myself very, very well. Okay, is I create frameworks very easily to where I know exactly how I want things to be structured. And sometimes I already have these pre-done in my head and know how they're done because I've done them before in the past. Other times I actually have a plan that's already been mapped out. Other times I know where the resources are and I purchase that resource to get, to map it out to fit my whole thing. And then others I'm like, fuck, I have no idea how to do this. Let's figure this out. Like me and Jeff, like let's just powwow on this thing. Where I'm coming from is that, like if you don't know how to create these frameworks and you don't have someone to execute upon these frameworks or create them themselves, then bringing marketing in-house is not going to be very helpful. Okay, so those are just some of the reasons why you don't want to have marketing in-house. And I already gave you a reason why you don't want to hire an agency. And I gave you benefits of having both. And so now you're probably asking yourself, shit, Javier, what should I do? I don't know if I should hire or if I should bring it in-house. I don't know if I should, get an agency, or should I, do a combo? And this is my solution is you do both. You bring in a marketing leader, maybe not like a VP of marketing, maybe not a CMO, but maybe you bring in like a director of marketing or a marketing manager, someone that has led marketing to a degree, but is looking to kind of get their a little bit more freedom, if you will. You bring someone in like that, all right? And you pay them a nice salary because you want them to work into a position of like a VP of marketing or a CMO position. And you plan to keep them there for 2 or 3 years or 4 years, and you give them reasons to stay. Okay, you give them a lot of freedom, a lot of creativity, a lot of leadership, a lot of opportunity. Okay, don't just say this shit, actually do it. Okay, so you bring them in like a marketing director, and then that marketing director is then going to be in charge of finding an agency to help supplement an area that is lacking that they can't do. So an example, doing lead gen in-house is very time intensive, but hiring an agency to do that is actually much more cost effective. And so that's one strategy that you can do where this director of marketing is in charge of hiring an agency to do something and then using other resources. So using Upwork or Fiverr to do content creation, to do design and some other things that need to be done. Okay. And so this director of marketing would essentially be in charge of managing different portfolios of just contractors. Okay. We've got this contractor that does this, and we've got this contractor that does this, and that's exactly what I do at Ratmate. Is I manage those things. That's what I did at CMI Mechanical. As the national director of business development, I was doing those things where I would hire out third-party agencies and hire out contractors to do certain elements of the job, and so that helped me fulfill the goal and the strategy of the company. And that's what I would recommend is getting someone that is a mid-tier to higher tier. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Javier, should I hire someone higher? Should I get someone like a CMO? Yeah, totally. And if you do want to hire a CMO, just be ready to spend a lot of money, okay? Because you're going to have to give them a high salary, a strong base, bonuses, okay? They're probably going to want equity, okay? And you feel like, well, they don't deserve any of that stuff. Yeah, they do. Trust me on this. They deserve that. And if you can't afford that or you don't want to pay that, then hire a fractional CMO. Okay? That's the best solution there. Hire a fractional CMO to help create the strategy. And then that fractional CMO can be helping you with the other parts of like hiring a contractor, hiring an agency. And then maybe your director of marketing is more of like your jack of all trades kind of thing, where they're in charge and they kind of report to the CMO, but the CMO is just, there to kind of help execute certain pieces. But that director is essentially part of the company, and they are, doing some work, as far as tactical, but they're also helping on execution on certain things as well too. That's probably another solution where you hire a fractional CMO for say, 6 months or for 12 months, and that's it. And then they're off your books. Okay. And then you have an agency that only does little elements. And this director of marketing might be more of like, demand gen focus and doing a lot of the promotional stuff, while you have an agency that does like the lead gen piece. So there's a lot of different ways on how you can actually kind of create this. You just got to be really creative. So that last solution, as I mentioned, you can get a fractional CMO. That's a contractor in charge of strategy and in charge of just like overall, growth of marketing. You can have an in-house director of marketing, okay, who is a little bit of everything, that does like the 3 categories that I gave you guys. And then you hire one agency to do like, say, lead gen. So that director of marketing could be focused on demand gen and promotion and stuff like that. And then you have a lead gen company for your agency. And then you might want to sub out web design stuff. All right. You want to sub out funnel stuff, and you just use subcontractors for those sort of little projects. And then you have got yourself a marketing team of 2 or 3, and one of them is in-house and the other 2 are just outsourced. And that's a really, really great way of saving great money and getting a great benefit for your company. So if you have any other questions about when it comes to marketing agencies, some people are going to ask me, what agency do you use? I'd rather not say. Okay. It's not that I want to pass them business. It is more along the lines of like, we want to keep our agency to ourselves. And so if you ask me in a DM message, I might tell you. It's not that I want to give them business, because they do work, they do great. But the other part too is like, there's some things that I can probably do for your company as well too, that I might be interested in helping you with. And quite frankly, let's just face it, I've been in the industry a lot longer. I understand how this stuff works. And I understand if I need to actually have someone do the other projects. And I say, hey, you know what? This is not going to be for me. But if you're looking at finding agencies, do some great searches. Best thing to do is look into like LinkedIn. Find something else, start connecting with agencies and marketing gurus on LinkedIn, and see who are commenting and who are the smart people out there that are giving great value and sharing really great information. Start finding those people. And when you do that, agency owners will find them as well too, and you will find those. All right, so I hope this was a very, very helpful podcast episode. This was very long, so I apologize for the length of this one. But 3 things for me: please like us. Please rate our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Next thing is connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Javier Lozano Jr. And then last thing is share this podcast with somebody else so that they learn more about us as well too. So that would be greatly appreciated. Send it in a DM, send it in a text message. Other than that, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to everyone later.